Essential EGL+Batch. This series features EGL Development Tools version 0.8. Let's take a look at the finished product for today's lesson 3. In today's lesson, what we're going to do is we're going to improve upon the batch library that we wrote in lesson 2. What we're going to do is enable the calling program to set a function name, and then in the end function, we're not going to pass the parameter. We want the library to actually save the function name. In order to do this, we're going to create a function name variable, set it in the start function. So this function name variable will actually be part of the library. And then we'll be able to use it in the start function and the end function. So the first thing we want to do is be able to create a package in our EGL program project. So we're going to create a new package called lab.lesson3. And inside of the lab.lesson3, we're going to create a new program called lesson 3. I'll click Finish. EGL Development Tools creates a program with comments and a couple things for us. We're just going to leave the function main for right now. I'll save that. Let's take a look at how to create a library. So we'll right-click on the package, and we want to do a new library this time. The name of the library is going to be called Batch Lib. And yes, we're using the same name that we were using in lesson 2. And similar to a program, when you create a new library, EGL creates a bunch of things for you. And this time, we're not going to really use anything that EGL created. Now this is the library from last time. And what we want to do is fix up this library. So let me select it and copy it to the clipboard. And then I'll go back to our new batch library and I'll select all this text, and then paste in the library that we had last time. So this is the library that we had last time, and it was still lesson 2, so we need to change that, fix it up so that it's part of lesson 3. So that's our package name. This is our library name. And inside of our library, we have the prefix start, prefix end, just like we had before. The right-click and close others enables us to close everything but the current editor. Now, what I want to do is take out this parameter. And as soon as I take out the parameter, it says the name cannot be resolved. And what we're going to end up with is something like function name. Of course, function name is also a variable that's not defined. So let me undo that. Let's add a variable called function name and make it private. Make it a string type with a question mark, which means it's nullable. And we're going to declare that outside of any function, so it's part of the library. Now if I type in FU and press Control Space, it's an interesting thing that the editor pops up a list of all the available things that start with FU. And if I type in NA and press Control Space, there's only one thing that starts with NA, so it fills it in immediately. So let me fix up the names of these variables to be function name instead of the parameter name. So the start function sets the function name, the end function uses it. There's just one thing. What happens if someone calls end function before they call start function? So I'm going to put in a test here. that function name, if it's null, I'm going to go ahead and return. Oh, and let me do this again. Let me type in this a little bit more slowly. When I return from a function, it's just a return statement like that. Now watch what happens when I type END. Now, I didn't move the word END to the left. The editor does that for me. And the semicolon is not required on the end keyword because it's a structural element and not a statement. And I can format the source code with EGL source and format. So that's what we have now. We have a library called BatchLib, and it has part of the library is a variable called function name. So unfunction no longer needs a parameter. It's going to use whatever was set when the start function was called. So let's see how we use this in our lesson 3 program. Now watch what happens when I type in BatchLib and just hit the dot. It comes up with a list of things that I can use. So control space will bring it up, this list for quick entry. Also the dot. Let's see, now if I type very quickly, you'll notice that the dot does not bring up the, if I just type very, very quickly, the dot does not bring up the choices. But if I actually put in a dot and wait, then it'll come up with choices. And then I can pick a function out of the library. And that works with both custom libraries and the built-in libraries from EGL, like syslib. So I'm going to put together, just like lesson 2, exactly like lesson 2, I'll create a function called demo. And notice again, when I type in the keyword end, it puts it in the right place for me, that I don't have to do that. Now I'm going to type in a dot and pick start function. I'll use the function name, which I haven't defined yet. I'll put the dot, and this time I'll select end function with the enter key, and now I'll put in function name as a string is equal to demo. So, I'll save all these changes, and what do I have? We have a program now that calls, it's going to start out at main, and then main is going to call demo. Demo in turn is going to be calling the library. Now it's pretty obvious that lesson 2 and lesson 3 programs cannot be confused. But what about BatchLib? We have 2 different libraries with the same name. Well, the distinction between the 2 is the package. You'll notice that this package is lesson 2. So this is a lesson 2 BatchLib, and this one package is lesson 3. So this is lesson 3 BatchLib, and so these are not the same library. We still have the lesson 2 library, and it still requires a name parameter in the end function. And then we have lesson 3 batch library, which doesn't require a name in the end function. So let me close everything except for the lesson 3 program. And we'll run this with run as and EGL Java main application, just as we've been doing before. And what do we get? Let's take a look at the console. Well, look at this. Well, it's not surprising that the start demo is coming from the start function, but where did the demo word come from in the end function? It's not passed as a parameter. Let's set a breakpoint here on start function, and then we'll debug this program to see where the function name is being stored. Yes, we want to switch to the debug perspective. Now, under variables, you'll notice that the batch library has not yet been initialized. That's why it says null. In the demo function, we actually have already passed where it assigns the function name string to demo, and we're about to call start function. So I'll step into that. And here, it's going to initialize the batch library first before we can step into the start function. So this is the batch library, and you'll notice that after it's initialized, function name is still null. Prefix end is end and prefix start is start, but the function name is null. This is the start function of the batch library, and the name parameter is demo. So let me scroll up to where it says function name and watch what happens when I step over. You notice immediately in the variables view it shows you the new variable, and it also puts it in yellow to say that that was recently changed. Now the message is written out, which is no surprise. It shouldn't be a surprise that it writes out start demo. Now let me go back to watch how it has no parameter, but we'll step into end function. And where does it get the function name? How does it know the function name? Well, between calls to batch library, you notice that the function name, which is part of the library, it retains its value. So for this particular program, as we're running, variables that are in the library retain their value. The variables that are part of the library retain their value. And so that's where the word demo comes from, the value demo. And I'll just finish this program. We're done debugging. So all the functions that are in the library can use a variable that's part of the library. This has been another lesson of Essential EGL Batch. Thanks for watching.